Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 2 of the Q&As. So let me get my hat on here, and let's knock this out. Alright, first question. Hey Jason, I seem to be failing my sets on around 5 to 8 reps regardless of my weight. This happens even after deloading correctly, increasing volume, decreasing volume, and even having alternating heavy days, light days. For example, still 6 rep chin-ups as well as 10 kilogram 6 reps at 75 body weight. What could be the problem? Love the content. Thanks. Alright, brother. I'm going to tell you something you probably don't want to hear because, again, this has been misconstrued. You're failing at around 6 to 8 reps no matter what. You keep failing. Well, it's like I tell people repeatedly. Muscle failure isn't something you should be doing with less than 10 rep sets. Alright? If you are failing with moderate or low reps, you will beat up your recovery inroad so much that you will struggle to recover enough to gain muscle before your next training session again. So the reason you're stuck is because you keep reaching muscle failure. Quit reading these bodybuilding mags. Quit reading this stuff. People who do multiple sets shouldn't be training to failure. Like, this training to failure thing is usually for one set in a workout. This is for people who do certain types of training. People who are training for maximum strength shouldn't be doing this stuff. And again, I understand metabolic fatigue from higher rep work. Alright, that's fine. But the thing is, you keep hitting muscle failure, and you're doing it on big things like chin-ups. Now, something else you need to consider there, yeah, you're adding 10 kilos, so that's over 10% of your body weight on the chin-up and getting the same number of reps. You're probably going, well, why is that? Well, because quite frankly, you aren't strong enough to be doing weighted chin-ups. Alright, if you can only do 6 chin-ups with your body weight, what makes you think that you need to be adding weight? Because I can tell you what's happening. If you videoed yourself, I think you're going to find that because you aren't strong enough to do weighted chin-ups, you're short stroking them. So you're probably going further down on the body weight ones, and then you're skipping the bottom with the weighted ones because your body knows it isn't strong enough to lift you back up. Okay? It knows it can't pull you back out of the hole, because if you can only do 6, there's no way you should be adding weight. So you're probably short stroking the reps, and then you're getting to that 6 rep and failing, because that's what your body's used to failing on roughly in terms of workload. So you're probably doing an equivalent workload because you're cutting out a couple inches, 2, 3, 4 inches out of your range of motion at the bottom when you're adding weight. And it goes back to my point. I always tell people partials with heavier weight don't necessarily build any more strength or size, and that's what you're probably doing instinctively because you're probably not used to going to a dead hang. You're probably used to skipping the bottom to some extent. Then you're adding weight and doing that. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you can't do 10 chin-ups with your body weight, you have no business adding weight to that exercise. And chin-ups are a very difficult exercise, and again, if you're adding weight and you're hitting muscle failure on this exercise, of course you're not progressing. Big exercises like that, the best way to increase chin-ups has been found that I've ever seen is Pavel Tausilini's greasing the groove method. You don't even get within 50% of failure. So if your max number is 6, you would never do more than 3 at a time, and you would do those every day, several times a day. But the point is, what you're doing is not working, and you need to adjust that. Work on building yourself up with non-failure sets. Work on getting good at chin-ups, for example. And it could be similar things going on with different exercises. I only had the example of the one you gave me, and that's what I have to work on, and that's what I see going on, brother. Alright, next question. Hey Jason, you mentioned in videos explaining Reg Park and Arnold's programs that body part splits don't work for natties for muscle gains. I didn't say that. I just said you get slower gains. Could you do a video explaining this a bit more, as I'm not sure you've covered this specific topic before? It would be much appreciated. Thanks. Alright, brother, I'm going to assume you're not a troll, that you're fairly new to the channel. Maybe you've only been here a month or two. Because everyone else is about to roll their eyes. They're like, Jason has done this at least 25 separate videos. I've answered this question. I never go more than 3 months without making a full 10 to 15 minute long video on this topic. Simply put, for people who aren't on drugs, your muscles only grow 28 to 48 hours after you train them. If you're on a body part split, how often are you training each given muscle? Once a week, once every 5 days? You're only growing 1 to 2 days after you train it. How could you possibly gain as much muscle with that low frequency as you could with the higher frequency? Alright, and what you generally find is that there have been studies on this. People who do the same amount of volume every week, who spread it out over more workouts on the same exercise, the same body part, gain more muscle. Simply put, volume and frequency both matter a lot for the natty lifter. For heavily enhanced lifters, total volume matters way, way more than frequency. Frequency becomes far less important as long as their total volume is there because they have extended muscle protein synthesis. So, in short, doing the same work spread out over more workouts produces more muscle growth for natties. So obviously full body training like 3 days a week is close to ideal, particularly for first year and second year completely natty drug-free lifters. So that's the cliff notes of it. I could make a longer video, but I've got at least 25 versions of the longer video up. I'm going to assume you're new to the channel. I'm not trolling though. So next question. Hi Jason, mad internet standards aside, you are clearly massive. I know you are trying to get a little leaner at the moment. Do you expect to hold on to the size as you lean out, or is it impossible to hold on to that much muscle at say 10 to 12% body fat or thereabouts without high amounts of anabolics? Thanks for the great info as always. You know, honestly, I don't know how lean I'll be able to get while holding onto my muscle because of the fact that I'm not blasting a bunch of gear. I'm in the normal hormone range, but you know what? I've gained muscle. I'm bigger now than I was a year ago. I'm holding more muscle, and I haven't blasted any gear in that time. So I have no reason to think at this point that I'm going to struggle holding on to pretty much all my muscle and strength as long as I'm very, very smart about my training and I cut slowly, which is what I'm doing. Like right now I'm down 12 pounds in what, about 6 weeks or so. So I'm losing approximately 2 pounds a week, and at my body weight I can get away with that. That's going to need to cut down to less than that before long, probably a pound a week or so. But what I'm doing, I'm not really restricting my food a great deal. I mean, I would say the lowest calories I eat is maybe 3,000 on some days it's 3,500, some days it's over that. But the thing is, I've just added in a lot more cardio, a little more activity, more less cardio, and it's just slowly bringing the scale down while just kind of being mindful, roughly mindful of my total calories and trying not to go crazy on things and just eating higher satiety foods. Like the last few days, like 3 days this week, I've eaten an entire watermelon. People are like, that's 1,500 calories. I'm like, yeah, but it's actually a very filling 1,500 calories. I wouldn't be able to do that with other foods, and I've done that and just eaten 2 pounds of chicken with it and a little bit of rice and some vegetables, and I'm done. It's like ended up being like 3,000 calories and actually feeling full on it. So that's all I'm doing different. No big deal, but yeah, the scale's coming down. The strength is holding just fine. I'm having no trouble maintaining strength. I'm just as strong now as I was 12 pounds ago. So I can hopefully maintain that same thing. And you know what? I'm not going to know till I get there. Now, do I see myself getting to 10% body fat? Probably not. But I'm just going to kind of take it in stride and see where it all goes. You know, I'm going to get down to about 220 and then reassess from there. And hopefully, I'm thinking because of the way I'm training, the way I'm incorporating all of this, that hopefully I can maintain all my muscle without having to resort to blasting a bunch of gear, because I'm 40 years old. I don't want to do that. I know people are like, well, Rich Piana does that. I'm like, yeah, but he's going to die. Rich Piana's not going to be here in 5 years. I would like to be here in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. So it's just not an option for me. But I guess I'll just wait and see. We don't know till we get there. All right, next question. Thoughts on strictly double overhand grip for deadlifts? The goal here would be to strengthen my grip more, but would my posterior chain lag due to the slight decrease in weight on the bar until my grip catches up? Thanks. No, once you're strong, you don't need to be doing the double overhand anymore. Now, I will state, since you asked about that, that's a good point, because I have Brittany doing double overhand. She has never done mixed grip. She's also deadlifted 200 pounds double overhand, beltless, strapless, everything else double overhand. But I tell people on the deadlift, do double overhand grip as long as you can get away with it, and then go to mixed grip. And once you go to mixed grip, don't ever look back. And when I tell people mixed grip, I mean warm up with mixed grip. I hate it when people say, well, I warm up with double. Why? Why would you, well, the whole point of warming up is to prime your nervous system for an exercise. Why would you ever use a different technique to warm up than you're going to use on your heavy sets? I don't even understand the concept. Like, if people think you're warming up to get your joints warm, no, you're warming up to prime your nervous system. That's the entire point of a warm-up. Unless you've been walking in the freezing cold and sub-freezing weather on your way to the gym, warming up isn't about warming your body before lifting. It's about priming the nervous system. That's everything. That's what it's all about. So why would you ever warm up with a different variation of the exercise than you're about to do? If you're going to pause bench, don't touch and go on the warm-up. If you're going to mix grip on the deadlift, just don't warm up with double overhand. But the point is, I tell people double overhand as long as you can, and then you'll build the rest of your grip strength, because it is easier with the mixed grip. It keeps the bar from rolling, so it isn't as hard. That's the reason we do mixed grip. It's the bar roll that's the problem with the double overhand. It's not your grip strength, it's the fact that the bar rolls, which makes it harder to grip. It's harder to keep it from rolling. So, go to mixed grip once you have to, and then use all your other pulling to build your grip strength. That's why we have rows. That's why we have chin-ups. That's why we have power cleans, hang cleans. All these other exercises are there to accompany building your grip strength. Use them. They're there for a reason. They're multifaceted lifts, and they will carry over to your deadlift. So what I would say, do it the correct way. When you're too weak to do double overhand grip, then go to mixed grip. Just do it correctly. It's not that difficult, and then you can build your grip from there further by obviously doing the deadlift. I mean, if you have to go to mixed grip at 400 pounds, when you get to 500 pounds, are you still gripping heavier weight? Sure you are. Sure you are. Are you still doing lots of rowing and chinning? Of course you are. That will build your grip as you get stronger on those too. All right, next question. Thoughts on... Oh, wait. Jason, what are your thoughts on the type of diet the nutritionist like Gary Taubes promotes? Gary Taubes isn't a nutritionist, he's a journalist. Specifically, the idea that obesity is a hormonal imbalance and not an energy imbalance, and that high-fat, low-carb diets are the best for overall health. Yet every expert and dietitian out there has completely debunked Gary Taubes. He refuses to debate knowledgeable people. There are people who have debunked him who have real credentials, work with real athletes, real patients, even people who work in obesity wards who are registered dietitians who offer to debate him, and he refuses. While he publicly says everyone else refuses to debate him, he refuses to debate people with knowledge. Gary Taubes is an author and a journalist. He is not a nutritionist. All right, and what he's saying just simply isn't true. It's not based on reality. It's not based on the real world. I'm not saying ketogenic diets don't have their merits, but what he's saying isn't supported by the modern scientific literature. I've linked tons of studies, tons of meta-analysis. Go look into plenty of experts out there who are talking about, even Alan Aragon. If you guys want someone here in the physique or bodybuilding world, Alan Aragon has a master's degree in nutrition, runs an entire research review every week that he dedicates half of his week to on nutrition research. He preps bodybuilders for shows, natty bodybuilders and stuff. And he is a big person who denounces Gary Taubes and has broken down numerous times why Gary Taubes is full of BS. It's not that hard to find legitimate experts to debunk this. Quit listening to people like Gary Taubes who refuse to engage in debate, and they only spin their side of it when they know that they're wrong. Gary Taubes at this point has been shown enough information that he knows that he's wrong. This is purely a financial endeavor for him to sell books and to sell lecture places. He knows he's not right. Just throwing that out there. He's been shown clearly the evidence enough that he knows that he's shilling people. He's a con man. And anyone who thinks otherwise is, I'm sorry, just flat ignorant. All right, next question. What is wrong with spacing your workout every 4 to 7 days a week like Mike Mentzer recommended if you're getting stronger? It's easier to overtrain than less training, pal. The problem is because people who aren't on drugs, and remember Mike Mentzer used tons of drugs. He didn't train this way either, by the way. It's what he recommended. Most of his clients were on tons of drugs. I have no problem with Mike. Sorry about that. I have no problem with some of what Mike promotes, but the low frequency thing is the nonsense. I have no problem with his ideas on volume with higher frequency. And you know what? Most modern people who have gone back and they look at modern scientific research who still incorporate any of Mentzer's hit ideas, every one of them advocate high frequency training. All right, every single one of them have you training a body part like 3 times a week, but following some of Mike's advice. Okay, you need to understand the difference. Everyone I know who's successfully coaching anyone today who still incorporates Mentzer is using high frequency training. They're just using his ideas about volume, workload, and intensity in a single session. The fact of the matter is you can't grow as fast. Muscles only grow for 24 to 48 hours after you train them. Mike was probably right that the volumes that pro bodybuilders were using were pretty much the product of highly enhanced people on tons of drugs. Natty people just won't get nearly as much muscle growth from that higher volume. They benefit more from the higher frequency with the volume brought back in a check. So no, I mean, the ideas don't work. They just don't match the current science. They don't work with the way we know the human body works. I mean, take it or leave it. All right, next question. Thoughts on Greg Knuckles' Bulgarian method, where you run it 12-week blocks in conjunction with a broader training program, or Matt Perryman's version, and using it as a year-round method while incorporating unloading, deloading weeks every 4th week for recovery. Pros and cons of each. Thanks, Jason. God, I don't even know if I can give you the pros and cons of each. You know what? Both methods work. And actually, for strength athletes, I actually endorse both of these ideas. They're both workable. It's going to depend on what you're trying to do. Yeah, Greg Knuckles running it in the 12-week blocks, and again, people need to read up on that, what Bulgarian Light is. I have absolutely utilized it the way that Greg Knuckles breaks it down, or something very, very similar to where I've rotated through Bulgarian training with then blocks of accumulation work and things. I've absolutely done this, and it works pretty well for getting you strong and putting on size. Perryman's ideas are good too. The only downside might be with Perryman's methods might be the risk of slightly higher injury due to too much specificity of training. But I think Greg Knuckles addresses that too when he talks about exercise variation. But I think as long as you were careful with your accessory work, that con could go away. Just getting a little bit of exercise variety with your accessory work to go with the primary lifts. But yeah, they both have really good versions of Bulgarian Light. Both methods work. I know people who've used both methods successfully. They work. And of course, John Bros has his own ideas on it. And I would say to anyone, if you're trying to get a broader spectrum of all of this, read Matt Perryman's Squat Every Day, look at Greg Knuckles' Bulgarian Light, and go check out what John Bros has to say, because they all have their own slightly conflicting ideas on Bulgarian Light. And I think the truth of the matter lays somewhere in between, because they're all experienced coaches. They're all well educated. They all know what they're talking about, and I think if you look at the total sum of their ideas on Bulgarian Light type training, you'll probably get a much broader spectrum of the method before you attempt it yourself. That's what I would advise. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.